Hey everyone, welcome to Smash Trivia. I'm your host, Smash Trivia John. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram by searching Smash Trivia to follow everything happening with me. I'll be the one with the big old green head in the profile picture. I'm so excited to get into this. This is the Gamma Analysis. Basically, in this series, I'm going to review everything Hulk, all the movies and TV shows, and maybe at some point I could get into comics, but that's a while off. Hope you'll enjoy Smash Trivia presents the Gamma Analysis. I want to ask everyone listening if they could please do something for me. Please share the hell out of this podcast with all your friends because I really want to get the Gamma Analysis to be big enough that by the time She-Hulk comes out, maybe I could become press and either get the first episode early or be invited to a premiere or even just get one of the press goodie bags. For this episode, I'm going to review the first episode of the 80s Incredible Hulk animated series. Our co-host today is Rob from the Weekly Meat podcast. How are you doing, Rob?
I am incredible. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So that's great, man. All right. So my trivia question for you this episode is: in the crossover between Marvel and DC called DC versus Marvel Comics, which DC character did Hulk fight against?
Superman.
All right. Well, I will give you the answer to that later in the show. And I actually have the hardback version of that comic. But I wasn't gonna show it because mainly because that would spoil it.
Yep. The first three, if I'm not mistaken, the first three issues are what, Marvel versus DC, and the last three are DC versus Marvel.
I'm not sure. I just have them as a collective copy, so it has all the issues in it. I also have I bought at the same time this thing for that was called Crossover Classics, and it was the fourth edition of them, and so of some of the crossovers they had in like the 80s, I think it was.
Nice.
Yeah, so I haven't read any of that yet, but I think it's really cool thing, a bit of history to have. Yeah. All right. So, the next I wrote down before we start our review is obviously, as I say every episode, I highly recommend watching the episode that we're reviewing before you listen to this, because this is a commentary track. It's not gonna make probably a lot of sense if you don't watch the episode. And the podcast I want to shout out this week is the Trapped in a World, the Howard the Duck podcast. They are going through and reviewing Howard's comics in release order. So if you're a big Howard fan like I am, I highly recommend giving them a listen. All right, very so cool. Let's get into this review. So this episode was titled The Tomb of the Unknown Hulk. And I think that's a pretty good title for the episode, though I do wish that Hulk were in the episode a lot more than he was. I feel like he was like probably the most minor character in the entire episode.
That happens sometimes when Bruce Banner is such a strong character as well.
Well, though Bruce Banner wasn't in a lot of it either, because most of the episode he was in the cave and they did flash back to him.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a very Rick Jones heavy episode.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the first couple of things I have is about the intro to the show. And so first I wrote, I love how this intro starts with Hulk breaking the ground with his foot. And next thing I have was that I find it interesting that they chose to give him red shorts instead of the classic purple ones. I'd be very interested in finding out the reason they chose that. Do you have any idea why they chose red instead of the classic purple?
Might have looked better on TV. That'd be that, or it was cheaper to color it that way. That'd be my only guess. Is
because I find that to be interesting, because like he's so synonymously known with having the purple shorts, so it just, at least in my opinion, comes off as a little strange seeing him wearing the red ones.
Right.
The next thing I wrote was that I loved in the intro the emphasis the giving into Hulk saving the girl who falls from her back balcony, because I love it when of seeing Hulk actually save people, not just being just destroying things.
Right.
Um, I and then we see a Bruce getting hit by the gamma radiation, and it's literally an exact copy of the panel from the comics where this happens. The only difference is that it is colorized, so he's not. So Hulk isn't gray, which is really cool seeing, because I don't know if they've actually a done any like reprints of the original where they actually colorized it. I would really I think that would be cool to do if they ever did that.
I was saying, unless it's in like a retelling, but I don't think they've gone back and done the actual #1 over again with color.
I think that I think that would be something interesting to own though. If they ever did that, because it it is a cool bit of Hulk history that he first was gray, but I think it would be cool just having that original one, but it being green, and like he was in everything after that. Yeah.
I know in the Immortal Hulk series, I believe, and in a couple other comic series, they reference back to that gray being like a metamorphosis. Like he was gray, but he went to green, and that's where the different personas come from. Is the different metamorphoses he went through spawn the different characters.
Though I've always heard that the gray Hulk, quote unquote, the Joe Fixit Hulk is not the same Hulk as was in that first
Right.
Hulk comic. It's literally just that the first Hulk comic, we didn't really know what the color of him was.
Right. Yep. But yeah, on that intro, that theme song for this episode or for this series is one of my favorites of all time. It's always in my head. It's I had a cassette with a couple episodes growing up, and this was like, as soon as I would hear this and my little brother was playing the tape, I come running into the next room, and just the next half hour, 45 minutes were lost.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. One thing I at some point, once I have the money to hire someone to do this, and I actually know where to find someone who would be willing to do this, I really want to try to get a theme song made for the gamma analysis, and I want to try and see what I can do to make it be a sign that honestly kind of mixes like some of the different theme songs from different Incredible Hulk series. I think that would be really cool.
Yep.
But like at the same time, make it the sign where like all the lyrics are about the show, and not just the same lyrics from from those animations, because there would be copyright issues. But yeah, I think that would be really cool to at some point do, and that's one of the big things that once I have money, I really want to do for my podcast is get some kind of theme song.
Nice.
Since I don't have any theme song yet for it. Next thing I wrote was also in this intro. I think this is the last thing I have from the intro, but I really liked them having Hulk push the spikes away, and then Hulk having to hold up that metal version of his logo. I think that's a really cool touch.
Yeah.
And then we hear the man, the myth, the legend, Stan Lee's voice narrating this.
That voice hits so much harder watching him now. Like as a kid, I'm like, cool, it's Stan. That's the guy who made everything. He's in the comics. He writes in the comics, blah, blah, blah. Now you watch it back, it's like, oh man, he did so much.
Yeah, it really is kind of hard, but also it feels nice to hear his voice again.
Right.
I really honestly wish that while he was alive, they had one of the Marvel films like have him do narration like for it. I think that would have been so cool if they had done that. Sadly, they never did. And also, like even what I think would be really cool, since most those films they have a director's commentary, they should have like released like with these films like a Stan Lee commentary of him watching the films. I think that would have been so cool to see his reactions to seeing his characters come to life in such big ways.
Right.
One of the things that I think back to that honestly really saddens me that he didn't live to see is I really wish he could have lived to see, or since I knew he was getting ill, they showed him. I wish they had showed him like a rough copy of Avengers Endgame, because I imagine he would get on so much joy to see this massive amount of characters all together on screen that he created. I think that would have been so beautiful for him to see, but so it really saddens me they never got a chance to do that.
Right. At least he got his cameos in.
Mm-hmm. Though it does kind of annoy me that they didn't also put a tribute to Stan Lee at the end of Endgame. They only did it with Captain Marvel.
Yep.
I feel like they should have also had that same same intro in Endgame as they did with Captain Marvel, of having his face instead of all these heroes. Because well, yes, Captain Marvel was the first film after he passed, but this was the biggest film, and I think because of it being the biggest film, he should have had a tribute in there.
Yeah,
not just his cameo.
They also used the intro to lead into the movie this time, though, so that kind of it made it hard to do.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think they could have figured out a way to do it.
Yeah.
So the next thing I have written down is I love that we see Betty Ross being a scientist during this. I imagine this is probably one of the earliest times that they chose to make her be a scientist.
Yep.
Since like in the original comics, she was not a scientist, and honestly, her father was pretty sexist. It's against her in the original comic. I didn't want her in the room with the men doing science, which is really sad, but yeah.
Sign of the time.
Yep. Like I've been for a long time been wanting to do a Hulk, a Hulk for the first comic. I've told you about this in DMs. I think where I have a bunch of people come on and do voices is to recount it. And that's one thing. I think if I do that, I'm definitely going to try to put at the beginning of it like signs saying disclaimer. These are not edited. These are literally of their time. This is how they acted back then. It's annoying that they acted like that back then, but we're not going to change the comic for this this recording of it. Yeah. So and that is that saddens me, but I think the art should still be kept in case, and also we should bring notice to the fact that they're back then were not necessarily in a good place. It's right. Like how they are now. So the next thing I wrote down is I'm not quite sure what these rods are supposed to be, because I don't think this was signed from the comics, but I'm guessing that they have something to do with him creating the gamma bomb, which was the catalyst for turning him into the Hulk. Especially since it's Dr. Octopus says that he's trying to steal the gamma bomb, but then later we see that he's really stealing those rods.
Yeah, doing his best Green Goblin impression all the while.
Oh yeah. So the next thing I have was I think it's really cool that instead of them having Betty being a damsel in distress, like we would probably normally see her in Sighing from I this time, we almost immediately see her being the one to save someone else, which kind of flips the script. I think that's really cool. And then this was I found out interesting, very unexpected. Like Bruce Banner must be really athletic in this because with that jump down from the ceiling in near the beginning.
Yeah, there's a couple athletic feats in this episode that made me question everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's revealed that the cosmic rays are breaking through the protective barrier, and it's revealed that Dr. Octopus is using it to try and steal the gamma bomb. Which I feel like it was a weird choice having Dr. Octopus be the villain here.
Right.
Do you know the comics much more than I do? Was there many times where he was a Hulk villain in the comics?
No, the only reason it would make sense is this cartoon was also run like back to back with Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. So they lent, I don't know if they want to, if I want to say they lent star power over to the Hulk cartoon, because I think Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends had been on for like at least one season, and then the Hulk cartoon joined up as part of like a power hour.
Okay, interesting. Makes sense. And I'm guessing the that show was much more popular than this one was, because as that show has multiple seasons versus this one only has one season.
Right. Yeah. And Spider-Man His Amazing Friends was very popular when I was a kid. Like they had Iceman and Firestar. Doctor Doom was a recurring villain. Like it's a very I'm pretty sure it's still on Disney Plus. It's a really cool 80s cartoon, like early 80s.
Okay. I'm definitely at some point be checking that out, because I think there's a couple episodes that Hulk's actually in that. So
yes, sir.
So I'll be reviewing those at some point. Yeah. And I was looking at IMDb. They had a really weird release schedule for the episodes of this show. Like after after the 10th episode of the season, they they literally went off air for almost a year. I'm wondering what the problem was that caused that.
Not a clue.
So the next thing I have written down here is it. I love that burn towards the owner of Rio's Rancheros, but the owner Rio asked, how many customers are we gonna get without advertising? And well, the staff says, well, how many do we get with advertising? None. Oh my god,
I love Rio. Rio's life.
Oh man. Rick Jones then goes to a military base after all the power goes out at the diner. And immediately upon getting there, Bruce insists everyone leave so he can lock himself up as he turns into the Hulk. And this really surprised me, because I was thinking, I think as we started this episode, that it was leading up to the accident that would turn Bruce into Hulk for the first time, and not that it already happened before the show started. I think that was an interesting choice from the writers of the show.
Yeah, we didn't get the traditional origin, even though I'm pretty sure you get it later in the series, in the season.
I think I saw on IMDb that there is like 2 episodes or 3 episodes from now as the origin of the Hulk.
Yeah.
So the next thing I wrote down, I think they mentioned what this was later, but I don't think I ended up writing it down. But I wonder what was being sprayed in that chamber that Bruce put himself into.
Oh, the sedation gas.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting to see Bruce be able to resist the transformation. It's not often that you actually see that in many Hulk adaptations. It's done a few times in the comics, but not. I don't think it's done very often outside of the comics.
Right. There was a lot of sweating involved in that. They drew him very sweaty.
So the next thing I wrote was, we see that a Doc Ock say, commence Operation Overflow. And I can't help but think, someone as smart as Doc Ock and can't think of anything more original to name it. Oh
Yeah.
man, I thought that was really funny how generic that was. The next I have here though with what's actually I really liked about with Doc Ock here is, I love how ridiculous Doc Ock's ship looks with the giant tentacles on the back of it.
Yes.
That like I really want to see crazy stuff like that done in live action, and we don't get that at very often.
We
And
we
that's
got the
sad.
we got the Thanos copter in the background on Loki, and that's the
Yeah.
closest thing we've gotten to silly villainy.
Like I mentioned on Twitter a couple of days ago, like for Joker, I really want to have a Joker in live action where you'll get to see the Joker mobile. You'll get to see him put his face on his base of operations. I I want to see that fun Joker, not just every time we have a Joker, it has to be darker than the last one. Like, why? Why can't we have like? And I understand. Yes, the Batman is dark, but the thing is, I feel like you can make a fun Joker even if the Batman is dark. Like Batman the animated series, you had a sort of dark Batman, but you still, but Mark Hamill was a fun Joker.
Right. Yeah, I am 1,000,000% behind you on that. You can make Batman as dark and brooding as you want, but to make a light, you could have the yin and the yang at that point. You know, the most serious Batman you have, and then the wildest, most zany, crazy Joker. I want one where he gives somebody a present where they think they're gonna die, and a bunch of crazy, Joker paraphernalia comes flying out of it, and then he kills them.
Yeah, like like I said this before, and I will say it again. What I really want is that they make you laugh when you kill someone to a point where you are questioning your own sanity.
Right.
I want that to be how he's a terrifying villain, because he makes you question yourself, and I think that's such a cool idea. And like the Joker is my favorite villain in DC because of the animation I watched as a kid.
Yes.
So and it saddens me that I'm probably never gonna see again any Joker like what I saw as a kid.
We are definitely in the minority on that.
Yeah. That's him being funny is why I loved him as a kid. Like I wanted to be able to laugh when I was watching cartoons.
Yeah, you knew when you were watching Batman the animated series, or even the Batmans after that.
Yeah.
If it was an episode that had the Joker in it, it was going to be wild. It was going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Like it didn't have to be dark and scary.
Yeah, like I remember growing up, I would insist that we checked out from the library any bit of animation and we could find that had the Joker in it. And I remember really liking when we found in a set of episodes of the one of the Justice League animated series that's they had Joker in it, and I thought that was such a cool thing. And it's weird. Here for some reason it's telling me that I only have 10 minutes left on this meeting. I'm supposed to be able to have as long as possible with
see that
2 people. I don't know why that's happening.
I see that.
Well, I'm going to keep going for now, and then we'll
ride it till the wheels fall off.
Have to. I may have to set another meeting up, but so the next thing I wrote down was that I feel like a paralysis beam is a little bit overpowered for a simple goon. I found it hilarious that the goon tries to paralyze the general, but it hits the metal in his hat, causing the beam to shoot back at him. The general brings the paralysis beam to Betty and General Ross, and Betty says, "I can't figure out how to reverse the effect." And General Ross has let Banner look at it then. I don't know why they needed to reverse the effect, since obviously the effect comes off because we literally see the goon in a cell behind him and he's not frozen. So it seems like it's pretty quickly it goes away. I don't know why we needed to create a reversal thing. The Banner and Rick immediately run away when they notice General Ross and Betty and the other general coming.
That was Talbot, wasn't it?
I don't. We didn't get a name.
I think they called him Talbot when they were looking for them in the mountains.
Okay, maybe. I was actually thinking for a bit that he was like the inside source Doc Ock had, but they never revealed in the episode who it was. So the next thing we have is that as we see the other general, we're gonna call him Talbot for now. I'll go outside and say, "I'll catch you, Dr. Banner," and like that, I found that to be a really weird thing to me because like my first thought in this situation wouldn't be Banner must be involved. I would my first thought would be whoever broke in had an accomplice who also had a paralysis beam that they used on Banner to kidnap him.
Right.
I feel like that's kind of the obvious thing. But let's see. The next thing I have is so apparently the cosmic rays combined with the gamma in Bruce's system, causing Bruce to turn into the Hulk at random. Which I'm surprised it's about. I feel like if they were going to do something with I'm changing how he turns into the Hulk and not just be from anger. Since they're pulling a lot from the original Hulk comics, I'm surprised they didn't go with the what they did in those original Hulk comics of either have it that it's nighttime or have it that it's have that Rick is able to control him.
Right.
I think particularly Rick being able to control him would have made this for a really fun plot for this series. Especially since that's something you don't really see in any of the adaptations of the Hulk. The next thing I have was Hulk starts coming out as Bruce is driving. So Bruce stops the car and they get out. And we get our first full transformation scene, and I love it.
Yes.
I think very briefly during that transformation, we got a reference to the Ferrigno Hulk, as it kind of looked like him briefly. Did you notice that?
So yeah, the halfway between Banner and Hulk, it really looks like Ferrigno, and then it's only for like a flash, and then it goes into like cartoon Hulk.
Ah, interesting.
I've noticed that a lot.
All right. So the next thing I have is that I find it hilarious that the army thought a simple net would stop the Hulk. I love
the net hardened. It wasn't just a standard net; it hardened.
I don't think that that the hardening helped either.
Nope, not even a little.
It goes to show that they definitely haven't been chasing the Hulk for very long if they thought that would stop him. I love that Hulk in retaliation, he smashes the ground, causing earthquakes. And then I also love seeing Hulk throw the engine from an army vehicle, breaking a satellite dish.
Yes.
And Hulk has quite the vocabulary in this. I found that interesting. Like I feel like most of the time, particularly when he's nearish to his origin, he doesn't have much of a vocabulary. But particularly in this, he had a lot of it. I wasn't nearly as big a fan of his voice in this one as in other adaptations, but I guess it's fine. Yeah.
So I've saved this to send to you while we're talking about the voice of the Hulk, because I wanted to bring that up. Um, I just sent you a picture of the guy who voices the Hulk, and it is so on cue with this guy. Like
Yeah.
when you hear that voice of the Hulk and you look at that guy,
Mm-hmm.
it's so hilarious. I guess I
That
unfortunately the guy died in like 85, so
that
like
sucks.
yeah, that might have been some of the last work he did, was growling and talking like the
Yeah.
Hulk, but he looks like he was born to talk like the Hulk.
Like I I don't know exactly how to describe it, but like I feel like maybe a Hulk had like a deeper, rougher voice. I would think of versus this wasn't so much that. It was still
Monster,
kind
it's
of
just like Scooby-Doo monster voice.
yeah. Yeah, it was surprising when I heard that. Um, the next thing I have was that Hulk follows Rick, and then we're showing Doc Ock again, and we find out the army going after Hulk causes there to be a barely anyone awake left at the base. So the more goons come and paralyze, I guess, the soldiers who are trying to sleep. And then we hear Doc Ock as narrated by Stan Lee, quickly and ruthlessly cripples the army's power supply. Oh man, I love that. And we see a Rita leaving the diner because something happened at the base, and she's worried about Rick. Right. So we're back after some technical difficulties. Um, Rita left the diner because something happened at the base, and she's worried about Rick. Um, Hulk seems to like the cave that he's in, but not the room that he has to stay in because it's too small for Hulk. Um, so Hulk feels betrayed when Rick locks him in there. Um, we see a Doc Ock capture General Ross, Betty, and Talbot, and Ross asks him how Ock did it so easily, and Doc Ock says he had some inside help. Um, and as I said earlier in the show, I'm thinking it's Talbot, because if that is the case, that would be a absolutely genius plan. And then we also find out he captured Rita. Um, so why I say it would be a genius plan is that is if it were Talbot, um that would mean that um Talbot intentionally or the goon intentionally hit Talbot, hitting himself so that to make it so that they would not suspect Talbot, and then Talbot then in turn would tell everyone that they need to go after or Banner, that causing there be no one at the base.
Very sneaky, Talbot. Very
Um,
sneaky, Glenn.
Now I'm guessing you probably watched this entire our show's run. Do they ever reveal who that inside eyed man is?
Nope. I think this is Doc Ock's first and only appearance in the run.
That's
Because after that, Glenn's constantly after Betty.
okay. I find that interesting that they would have him say that, but then not reveal it.
Right.
Who's his inside man. Yeah. So the next thing I have was that Hulk keeps Apes hitting the barrier until he gets it's tired and turned back into Banner. And after telling Banner what happened, Rick says he's gonna go get takeout from the diner. Um,
I bet Rio's got real good food.
Probably. Though though I imagine, being that this is out in the middle of nowhere, they would probably think any food is good food if it's not MREs from the army.
Right.
So that's one thing where I don't trust us many like small towns where they'll say this is the best food you can get, because a lot of them they don't know what good food is,
Yeah,
so
they just
they
haven't been
think
anywhere.
they think that's really good food.
Right.
Oh man. So when Rick gets to the diner, he finds out that Rita left, and so he has Rio come with him to scout out the base. And as Rick and Rio are watching from some sand dunes, Rio falls down and happens to fall in front of a secret tunnel into the base. And I feel like that was very lucky.
Yes.
There just happened to
Rio's
be
always getting into trouble.
there just happened to be the exact thing they needed there. Um, like when I was watching it, I said to myself off in my mind, the joke from Deadpool 2, that's just lazy writing. Oh man, but honestly, they don't really need something that but a explanation for that. But with size small like that, so it doesn't really matter. We next thing I wrote was interesting. So Doc Ock's plan is to use the rods we saw at the beginning to turn everyone in the world into monsters. And I wrote that I'm not sure what Doc Ock gets out of that, but it's an interesting plan. Um, I'm wondering from that, since it's since and I'm guessing the obviously the rods have to do with the gamma bomb. Does he know that that means he must know that the gamma bomb turns people into monsters like the Hulk? He must know that that Hulk is a man who got turned into it from the gamma bomb.
He is a doctor.
Yeah, I just find that interesting that they would bring that up, and we don't get anything like following from that.
Right.
The next thing I wrote down was that Rick and Rio overhear some goons talking about something having as many arms as the boss, which is what alerts them to the threat being Doc Ock. And Rick and Rio split up then because Rio has a plan to feed the enemy because it's almost breakfast time. And Rick follows the goons. Oh man. And then the next thing I have is that Rick was able to save the two generals and Rita using one of the goons' own paralysis beams. And the next thing though we see, at least I think it was a bit confusing. So Ross was able to get the other goon's beam because Rita pushed the that goon over. But then in the next shot, we see the goon is fighting Ross for the beam, and then the other general, Talbot, knocks him over. I'm wondering if that was just a mistake in the animation or if it was intentional. That was a little weird to me. But yeah.
Just little oversight on production.
So Rio gets to the kitchen and defeats some goons that are cooking by putting black pepper into a fan. I thought that was hilarious. And Rio starts putting massive amounts of seasoning in the food to attack the enemy's insides. And they actually animated him crying as he cuts an onion. and he says, "I love my work."
Rio's
Oh my
awesome.
god, that was hilarious.
He
But
gets better too.
also, if, from a scene later the episode when Doc Ock finds out about this, I think literally Rio only fed this food to the people he'd already tied up. So I'm not sure what good it did, but okay.
He's just flexing.
Yeah. So the next thing I have was that Doc Ock finds out the most of the hostages escaped and his goons are sick. He thinks that still at least he has as Betty, but she throws a green smoke bomb at him and escapes. I really love that. I love that Betty did not have to have someone on save her, and also that that Betty use a green smoke grenade. I love the touch of it being green. Um, Next I have was Doc Ock then grabs the rods and escapes out a window. He puts it on a rocket and tells everyone that they can't stop it. And Rick tries saying, but they can stop him. But then and Doc Ock hits the paralysis beam out of his hand, and we see a Bruce watching this all unfold through a camera. And Bruce sees it's Doc Ock doing this and him throwing General Ross in the back of a van. He decides he has to get back. So he turns it into the Hulk and is finally able to break out. Next thing I wrote was that we see a Hulk jump, and if you know the gamma analysis, you know that that I absolutely love Hulk jumps. And then as Hulk comes down from his jump, he smashes the ground, causing Doc Ock to lose balance and drop everyone into a bush, of which whom they are very lucky that that bush was there, as I imagine that fall might have killed them if it hadn't been there.
It's that Rio luck.
Yeah. And then and Doc Ock tries to use the paralysis ray on Hulk, but it doesn't work, causing Hulk to say, "You try to hurt Hulk." And as Doc Ock then blows up a truck full of something a flammable, which also doesn't hurt Hulk, but we do get to see him do a thunderclap to blow the fire out.
Yes.
And I thought it was hilarious that Rick got knocked over from the thunderclap, and then Hulk starts picking up the ground like paper. I found that to be really funny that I don't think that's how cement or concrete or whatever the ground was made of would have worked, but okay.
Have you never played Marvel versus Capcom?
No, I have not.
Hulk will rip the ground up and then like doing the carpet pool. Like it makes a wave of ground and it like ripples towards you and it's an attack. Yeah, that's always been a Hulk attack, is doing like the ripping the ground up. And
Okay.
oh
That's
yeah.
awesome. So the next thing we have was that Doc Ock wraps his tentacles around Hulk, but Hulk is too strong. He breaks free. And I knew that this wouldn't happen, but my immediate thought when the tentacles were going towards Hulk was, please nipple pinch and twist Hulk. It would have been hilarious.
Titty twister.
That would have been hilarious. Oh my god.
There are always edits.
Oh my god, that'll be. There's probably someone online who has done an animation of that. Mainly the reason why I thought of that is it reminded me of the meme of the ancient one in Avengers Endgame. When she's actually holding up the time stone to Hulk. But yeah. Oh my god.
I saw one that's like, "You're not wearing green," and she pitches him.
Oh man. I have you seen the deleted scene that was the original version of that scene from Avengers Endgame? I
Yes,
think that would have been really cool if they had actually had the ancient one like literally just lounging while the Avengers are fighting in New York.
yes.
Oh man, that would have been awesome. uh, oh man. So that let me see. Hawk ties up the a tentacles. But Doc Ock says, "I still win," as he laughs at Hawk, and the rocket takes off, and Hawk says, "Don't laugh at Hawk." Oh man,
And then
and
we get the most unbelievable jump in history.
yeah, I actually have something about that jump is as it's actually a reference. That jump is actually a reference. So, Hawk jumps up to the rocket and he bumps it before coming back down. And I wrote that that's a really high Hawk jump. But what I think is really cool about this is the reference here. So Hawk looks like he's flying eyeing during this jump. That's how he looked when he jumped in the original Hulk comics.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like when I first read the original Hulk comics for the first time, which was actually like about a month or month and a half ago or so. Oh, like I found it weird when I saw that in the comic, but like, it now watching this, I find it cool that they reference that.
Right. Yeah, that
Uh,
jump. The note I took on it, I said, "What a flying headbutt! A very awkward way of stopping a missile."
yep. Um, so later, Rick brings Betty down to where Bruce looks like he's been paralyzed, which is definitely a really great cover for him. But I honestly do not like that kiss from Betty, as she believes he is paralyzed right now, so he cannot give consent for that kiss.
Right. Very, very sneaky.
Yeah, I. Oh man, I like if it had if it gone like the other way around and where a female in that position, like the people would actually probably have even back then talked about it, be like, that's a little bit weird, but because there was a female in the situation, they were probably no one would have talked about it back then. Just thought, oh, he's kissing him.
Yep. She got a crush on him.
Oh man. Yeah. So the next I have was this is actually my last note from the episode was that so the reason they showed Rick getting injured earlier is so that we can have this final scene where he tells Bruce that he'll never leave him, and I like that they ended off the episode with this emotional moment.
Yes.
Do you have any final notes from the episode?
No final notes. Anything that I may have missed in there was um we probably won't get a Glenn Talbot in the MCU, and I'm glad.
Oh.
Because it's gonna take a lot for us to even get Betty brought back in, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The only other thing I wrote was rest in peace Thunderbolt Ross, because that's the first media I've watched with General Ross and it since William Hurt died.
Yeah. So but what I thought of the episode, I wrote in conclusion, I think this was all right, but as I said at the beginning of the episode, I wish it had more Hulk in it. I love that Stanley narrates this, and I wish they didn't skip over the actual accent in this episode. I find it weird that they're waiting till like another episode of the show to actually show his origin. But I think this is a solid first episode of a show. Oh, it's nothing extraordinary in my opinion, but I'm excited to keep reviewing this every once in a while, and I'll definitely bring you back, Rob, for reviewing this as I continue with it.
Hell yeah.
Um,
Appreciate it.
yeah. So sadly, I didn't really find any interesting trivia this time for the episode, but the answer to our trivia question from earlier, you got it right. It was Superman.
Yes.
So before we end off this episode, is there anything you want to say before we end it off?
Will never ever forgive Doc Ock for kidnapping Rio.
Doc Ock didn't kidnap Rio. Oh, Rio is.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He put Rio in danger, and that's bad enough. Anybody that puts Rio in danger, other than the Puppet Master, is a bad in my view.
I think you that you need to be calling out Rick Jones because he brought odd Rio to the danger.
Man, Rick Jones, even the dog Rick Jones up. Like, I don't know, it probably won't show up on the recording, but that little man is just running around right above me, and all I can hear is
oh man,
Rick Jones in cartoon and real life is always up to no good.
Mm-hmm. All right, so thank you for listening. If you like this gamma analysis, please give a 5-star review. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the episode, so please let me know. And if you'd like to listen to more from me, please subscribe. Many more gamma analysis is coming from me, so keep on the lookout. And thank you again for Rob for coming on the show. This again is your host, Smash Trivia John, signing off.